Okay, so I have to do this one on the road. I hope it's not annoying with the walking and such. Anyway, now the main topic that I wanted to go on to is about partly things like collapse of civilization, which I don't think is going to happen, and I'll tell you why. And natural cycles, the idea of the 80-year cycle, how we have, this, or you could even have the 250-year cycle, which is actually related to the 7 planets. I think it's 250. It's somewhere between that and 300 years. Excuse me. And it's the idea, the starting of civilizations and such. And another one, which I'll go into now, is actually about the idea of essentially, it's about the root, the root chakra, you can think, relating the opposite to the crown chakra. Now, collapses happen when we outsource the root. This is things like survivability, food, agriculture, basic resource gathering. When you start to outsource that to machinery, for example, what happens is that you don't actually learn how to do it. Instead, you have people learning how to use the machines. So the science of the root level matters is that of natural philosophy or natural science, essentially, which is alchemy. Or related to it at least. This is knowing how the seasons work, this is knowing how the years work, how the day cycles work and the stars work. It's understanding the air, the elements, the earth, water, air, fire and ether. It's understanding how the dirt works, how growth works, etc. So what happens is the start of the cycle, humans understand these things. They understand how nature works because they live with nature. And this is more of like a tribal society, for example, or very poor people. Very poor people are forced at the root, the root level. Usually, they've got a farm for themselves and such. This is the idea of the farmer. So it's like the early days of a family, of a corporation, of a country, of anything. They're attached to reality. Now what happens is that they get very good at farming, they get very abundant, they get very good at harvesting resources, and then eventually they start to get an overabundance of resources. When they do that, it turns into a manufacturing society. And when they make more of their money converting the resources into things, okay, converting cotton into rope and into fabric, for example, converting animals into bone or into leather or metal, or into metal, for example. Once this happens, this is the next level where things get a little more advanced and people start to, when the children, grow up, they're more interested in developing these manufacturing plants, for example. They're not interested in farming, in gathering resources from the mines or whatever. And then we hit the third level, which is more based around merchantry. Merchantry is the third level, which means people manufacture things and goods and services, and they're more interested in turning that metal into teapots or cups or whatever to sell. They're more interested in, going out on voyages over the seas to other countries to sell to them. Excuse me. Hence, this is when a country, excuse me, I'm on a semi-main road, country starts to lose its nationalism, so to speak, when a family starts to lose its togetherness, because eventually they start to get very wealthy off this. This is when a country gets a lot of money. We can see maybe in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, a lot of third world countries, when they opened to tourism, they started to develop this, and they got possessed by money. Now, a lot of these countries, they've lost their culture. Their culture and their god now is money and tourists, and they're getting to the point where their money is becoming equal to that of a first world country, exchange wise. Excuse me. Alright, fourth cycle is that of collapse or decay, where only a very small percentage of the population are harvesting resources. They're farming, they're going into the mines to get ores, chopping trees, etc., hunting animals and farming them. And what happens is that people start to forget how to do those things. When we go into a societal collapse, people forget how to do them, and they then, because we forget, we lose the root. You see, well, actually, there's kind of the age of the philosophical age, which I guess is technically age 4. So age 5 is the collapse or the decay. Age 4 is more the philosophical age, where you see how people are spending, maybe early 2010s, they're spending so much time in like pursuit of weird, wacky education, like the university stuff. That's where all the social justice nonsense came from. People put energy, precious energy, into, again, if a person puts too much energy into a video game or social media or watching movies or something, instead of, take a seat here, instead of actually developing their life or something like that, they're stuck in this era, which is they're stuck in their mind, so to speak. So societies eventually get stuck in their mind, which, if you look at the Zoomer generation, they're very stuck in their mind. Millennials more stuck in the heart area. The level 3, which is more merchantry. Gen X is more level 2, which is like building shit, manufacturing, etc. And then level 1 is, more boomers, I guess, raw resource and all that. Anyway, I'll sit here and talk. Right, so that's our main levels. So you can see how after the Zoomer generation, it is fallen, and these people can't do anything for themselves. They can't farm, they can't fish. Millennials can't farm, they can't fish, they can't hunt, they can't grow things, etc., get resources. Hope the wind's not too loud. And what happens is that people can starve, because we just don't have the know-how to how to build things, how to build houses and make food, and if that stuff gets very expensive. That's why housing now is very expensive, because everything related to the root, housing, land, basic resources, is all very expensive now. And I think it has to get cheaper just based on, I don't know, law of the world. It has to get cheaper, which is why it's kind of suspicious. Like, people buy land, houses now. I don't know. I'm a little bit suspicious on that. Anyway, then what happens is that, okay, so we're kind of at the level 5 now, level 5 to 6. I guess you could say 6 is collapse, 5 is decay. So we've had decay for like the last 20-ish years, and now we're at collapse. Now we're at a point where if people don't learn about the root, if people don't learn about survival, they could die. If people are too lost into fantasy, which this scamdemic is, excuse me, people being lost into fantasy. This kind of happens around these periods where people, because they're not tapped into reality, they can't see how things actually work and actually are, and they need some kind of, you know, some kind of illusion, I guess. They need some kind of, oh, it's a big crisis. Oh, there's a savior. You know, there's a fuck. What's that Italian elf, the Fauci? You guys got that in you guys got that little criminal in you know, America. They need the savior, right? And they need this whole savior thing, which is, they think, this is the fucked up thing about human minds. We think there's one thing which will save us. We think there's one activity, one medicine or something, and this is the thing. Now, people are going to realize eventually, I mean, they're onto their third or fourth one, that it's not the thing. That what happens is that society does not progress, reality doesn't get better. We don't get back to, well, what happens is after level 6 of collapse, we get to level 1. Which is going back to harvesting resources, to learning how to farm, to learning how to do these basic level things. Of course, we're not all going to have to do that. You know, some people are still going to, you know, be able to work their jobs. Society's too advanced. We're not really into that point of where everyone has to go back to living onto the farm. You know, it's not going to be that much, but to get beyond this crisis now, to get beyond this nonsense, we have to tap back into, you know, the past, tap back into ourselves, into the root matter of things. We have to look at reality, just keep looking at reality every day, no matter how bad it is. Anyway, I'll start walking back now. Okay, going on. So yeah, essentially the whole cycle is that it's like a family. The husband builds a house, then the children grow up and they live in the house, and they kind of know how to fix it a little bit, but they don't know how to build a house. And then their children grow up in the house again. They don't know how to fix it, they don't know how to build it. The house starts to destroy, to decay, and then that third generation's children, the fourth generation, has to relearn how to build a house. That's the cycle. It's the same thing for business. Right now we're at a point where people don't really know how to make money. They don't know how business works, any of this stuff, and we have to get back to that too, where we understand those things. Okay. I can share that. I think that's about it. So, if I can think of anything else for this. No, that's probably it for now. Anyway, of course, check the links in the description, and have a nice day.
As a side note, you might wonder why there's so much veneration of black culture and immigrants and such, and it's because these people represent the root. The people who come from very resource farming, very basic tribal societies. It's why, for example, the leftists are so big on immigration, on multiculturalism, all this kind of stuff, is because they lack fundamentally this grounded ability. These people have gone so far up into their little fantasy lands, and it shows through their social media, which they're unable to look at reality. Instead, they ban reality. You know, they ban anyone talking against the main narrative, against the fantasy narrative, for multiple different things. Because they need these people. Now, the ironic thing is that these people from very, diverse backgrounds are very, very conservative, are very, very right wing, because they're very, nationalistic, family based, all that kind of stuff. So they're complete opposite of these people, and it changes the culture. Now, I guess, we're not really going to go into multiculturalism debates or whatever, but the problem with that is that you have a bunch of people who, from their own cultures and races, who are for their own cultures and races, who don't integrate, who instead parasite and eat money and resources from the main system. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. So yeah, but basically that's kind of some ideas of why we're in what age we are in. Anyway, that's all. Goodbye.